The spotlight burned my skin. But it wasn't the heat that made me tremble, it was the sound of their laughter. Sharp and relentless, slicing through the auditorium like 1,000 tiny knives. I stood frozen in the wings, my script crumpled in my fist, watching my boyfriend, Ethan, lean in and kiss Sophia, the lead actress, as the final act of Romeo and Juliet unfolded. The audience semi-peers at the Crestwood Drama Academy erupted in applause. But it wasn't for the play. It was for me, the fool who thought love could survive this cruel stage. My name is Lucas Harper, a 20-year-old theater major with dreams bigger than my small-town Ohio roots. I'd come to Crestwood, a prestigious arts academy in upstate New York, to chase a career in directing, to craft stories that made hearts race and eyes weep. Ethan Caldwell, my boyfriend of 2 years, was the Academy's golden boy, charismatic, talented, and effortlessly charming. With his sharp jawline and piercing green eyes, he could make anyone believe in love, especially me. We'd met during freshman orientation, bonding over late-night coffee and shared dreams of Broadway. He was my first love, my muse, my everything until tonight, when the stage became a battlefield. The kiss wasn't in the script. I'd written this production myself, a modern retelling of Shakespeare's classic, and I'd poured my soul into every line. Ethan, cast as Romeo, had rehearsed with me for weeks, his hands warm on mine as we fine-tuned the dialogue. Sophia, a senior and the Academy's darling, played Juliet. She was magnetic, with long auburn hair and a voice that could silence a room. I trusted them both, believed in their professionalism, even when whispers of their chemistry swirled through the rehearsal halls. But as Ethan's lips met hers, lingering far longer than any stage direction I'd written, I felt my world crack. The audience's laughter started as a ripple, then swelled into a wave. They weren't clapping for the performance, they were mocking me. Word had spread about Ethan and me, the openly gay couple who dared to love in a place where acceptance was a performance, not a promise. Crestwood was progressive on paper, but beneath the surface, old prejudices lingered. Classmates who smiled to my face whispered slurs behind my back. Professors who praised my scripts in class dismissed my lifestyle in private. And now, as Ethan kissed Sophia, the auditorium became a coliseum, and I was the gladiator left to bleed. I wanted to run, to disappear into the shadows of the wings, but my feet wouldn't move. Ethan pulled back from Sophia, his eyes darting to me for a split second before returning to the stage. Was it guilt? Defiance? I couldn't tell. Sophia, oblivious or uncaring, took his hand and led him into their final bow. The curtain fell, but the laughter didn't. It followed me as I stumbled backstage, my chest tight with humiliation and betrayal. Lucas, wait. Ethan's voice cut through the chaos as I pushed past the stage crew, their pitying glances burning worse than the laughter. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Not when every moment of that kiss replayed in my mind. A loop of heartbreak I couldn't pause. I shoved open the theater's back door, the cold November air hitting me like a slap. The campus was quiet, the stars above mocking me with their indifference. Ethan caught up to me near the quad, his breath visible in the chilly air. Lucas, it wasn't what you think, he said, his voice urgent but unsteady. He reached for my arm, but I yanked it away. Not what I think. I snapped, my voice breaking. You kissed her, Ethan, in front of everyone. And they laughed. They laughed at me. It was improv, he said, his eyes pleading. Sophia pushed for it in the moment. I didn't know how to stop it without ruining the scene. Improv. I laughed, bitter and hollow. You expect me to believe that. You looked at her like, I stopped, the words choking me. Like you used to look at me. Ethan ran a hand through his dark hair, his frustration palpable. "Lucas, this place is a pressure cooker. You know how it is. The cast, the crew, the professor's theory, all watching, waiting for us to fail. I was trying to keep the performance alive." "And what about us?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What about keeping us alive?" He didn't answer, and that silence was louder than the applause. I turned and walked away, my sneakers crunching on the frosted grass. The dorms were a blur as I made my way to my room, locking the door behind me. I sank onto my bed, the script still clutched in my hand, its pages now creased and useless. I'd written a love story, but I hadn't written this ending. The next morning, the campus buzzed with gossip. My phone lit up with notifications texts from friends, posts on the Academy's online forum, even a cruel meme circulating among the theater majors. Lucas Harper's Romeo trades him for Juliet. One caption read, accompanied by a blurry photo of the kiss. I wanted to scream, to delete every trace of that night, but I couldn't escape it. Crestwood was a small world, and I was its latest scandal. I avoided Ethan for the rest of the day, skipping classes and hiding in the library's quiet stacks. But I couldn't hide from Sophia. She found me in the afternoon, her presence as commanding offstage as it was under the lights. "Lucas, we need to talk," she said, sitting across from me without invitation. "There's nothing to say," I muttered, staring at the book I wasn't reading. She leaned forward, her voice low but firm. "I didn't mean to hurt you. The kiss it was a spur-of-the-moment choice. Ethan didn't plan it." "Then why did he go along with it?" I asked, meeting her gaze. Her eyes were steady, but there was something unreadable in them, pity, maybe, or guilt. "Because this place demands perfection," she said. "And sometimes, perfection means playing a part you don't want to play." Her words lingered, but they didn't comfort me. I wanted to believe her, to believe Ethan, but trust was a fragile thing, and mine was shattered. As Sophia left, I realized I had a choice. Let this moment define me or fight back in the only way I knew how, through my art. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a script, but a new story, one that would expose the truth about Crestwood, about love, about betrayal. I didn't know where it would lead, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let their applause drown me. The blank screen stared back at me, a challenge I wasn't sure I could meet. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, the weight of last night's humiliation still pressing on my chest. But writing was my armor, my way of turning pain into something tangible, something I could control. Crestwood Drama Academy wasn't just a school. It was a microcosm of ambition and cruelty, where talent was currency and vulnerability was a liability. I'd learned that the hard way. As a freshman, I'd been naive, thinking my scripts and my relationship with Ethan could shield me from the Academy's sharper edges. But last night had stripped away that illusion. The laughter, the kiss, the mimicry were all reminders that I was an outsider, a gay kid from Ohio, trying to carve a place in a world that didn't always want me. I started typing, the words spilling out like blood from a wound. The story wasn't about Ethan or Sophia, not directly. It was about a fictional theater troupe, a group of young artists navigating love and betrayal under the glare of a spotlight. The protagonist, a queer director named Eli, poured his heart into a play, only to watch his partner, a rising star, choose fame over fidelity. It was raw, unfiltered, and unmistakably personal. Every sentence felt like a rebellion against the Academy's polished facade. By morning, I had 1,000 words, a rough draft of something that felt alive. But writing it was one thing, sharing it was another. Crestwood's annual showcase was coming up, a chance for students to present original work to faculty, peers, and even industry scouts. If I submitted this story as a one-act play, It could be my chance to reclaim my voice. Or it could make me a bigger target. I didn't see Ethan until rehearsal that afternoon. The theater was a minefield of glances and whispers. But I kept my head down, clutching my new script like a lifeline. Ethan approached me during a break, his expression a mix of guilt and defiance. "Lucas, can we talk?" he asked, his voice low. I didn't look up from my notes. "I'm busy." He sighed, sitting on the edge of the stage. "I messed up. Okay. I should have stopped the kiss. But you know how it is here. One wrong move, and you're out." "And what about me?" I said, finally meeting his eyes. Was I just collateral damage? "No," he said quickly, his voice softening. "You're everything to me. But this it's like a game. You play, or you lose." His words stung because they weren't entirely wrong. Crestwood rewarded those who conformed, who played the part of the perfect artist. Ethan had always been better at that game than I was. He could charm professors, win over audiences, make everyone believe he was destined for greatness. I'd loved that about him once, but now it felt like a betrayal. Before I could respond, Sophia called him back to the stage. I watched them run lines, their chemistry undeniable, and a new wave of doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Was this just theater? Just a moment exaggerated by the spotlight? But then I remembered the laughter, the way it had echoed in my bones, and I knew I couldn't let it go. That evening, I met with my friend Mia, a costume designer who'd been my rock since freshman year. Over coffee in the campus diner, I told her everything. Mia, with her blunt humor and fierce loyalty, didn't sugarcoat her response. "Ethan's an idiot," she said, stirring her latte. "But you're not. Use this, Lucas. Write something that makes them choke on their applause." Her words lit a fire in me. I spent the next few days refining my one-act play, titled Curtain Call. It was bold, maybe too bold, with scenes that mirrored the Academy's hypocrisy and a climax that forced the audience to confront their own complicity. I submitted it to the showcase committee, my heart pounding as I hit send. There was no going back now. The committee's response came faster than I expected. My play was accepted, but with a catch. I'd have to direct it myself, and the cast would be chosen from the current theater majors. That meant working with Ethan and Sophia, who'd both signed up for the showcase. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd written a story about betrayal, and now I had to stage it with the people who'd inspired it. Rehearsals began the following week, and the tension was palpable. Ethan tried to act like nothing had changed, but every time he spoke, I heard the echo of that kiss. Sophia, meanwhile, was professional to a fault, her performance flawless but distant. I threw myself into directing, using the play to channel my anger and hurt. Every line, every blocking choice, was a way to reclaim the narrative. But the Academy wasn't done with me. Rumors about my play spread, and the whispers grew louder. Some said I was airing dirty laundry. Others called it a desperate cry for attention. One professor even pulled me aside to warn me about alienating my audience. I nodded politely, but inside, I was seething. This wasn't about them, it was about me. About surviving a place that wanted to break me. As the showcase approached, I felt the weight of what I was doing. Curtain Call wasn't just a play. It was a declaration. I was putting my heart on the stage, knowing it could be met with more laughter, more cruelty. But I was done hiding. If Crestwood wanted a performance, I'd give them one they'd never forget. Rehearsals for Curtain Call were a tightrope walk over a pit of my own insecurities. The cast was small: Ethan as the charming but conflicted star, Sophia as the ambitious actress, and two other students playing supporting roles. Directing them felt like directing my own heartbreak. Every scene a mirror to the night that had shattered me. I kept my voice steady, my notes precise. But inside, I was a mess of nerves and determination. Ethan was trying too hard. Maybe. He'd linger after rehearsals, offering apologies I didn't want to hear. "Lucas, I'm sorry," he said one evening, catching me as I packed up my notes. "I didn't mean to hurt you. Can we just start over?" I looked at him, his green eyes searching mine, and for a moment, I wanted to believe him. But the memory of the kiss, the laughter, was too raw. "This isn't a scene we can rewrite, Ethan," I said, my voice colder than I meant it to be. "Not yet." Sophia, on the other hand, kept her distance. She delivered her lines with precision, her performance hauntingly close to the character I'd written, a woman who used her charm to climb the ladder, no matter who she stepped on. I wondered if she saw herself in the role, if she felt the weight of my words. But she never said anything, and I didn't ask. The play itself was coming together, each rehearsal sharpening its edges. Curtain Call told the story of Eli, a queer director whose love for his partner, Julian, is tested when Julian chooses fame over loyalty. The climax was a confrontation in front of a live audience, where Eli forces Julian to face the pain he's caused. It was risky, exposing, and I knew it would hit close to home for everyone involved. But that was the point. I wanted Crestwood to feel it, to see the cost of their cruelty. Offstage, the Academy's gossip mill churned. My play was the talk of the campus, and not in a good way. Anonymous posts on the forum called it self-indulgent and vindictive. One particularly vicious comment read, "Lucas Harper's just mad his boyfriend dumped him for a girl." I tried to ignore it, but each jab chipped away at my resolve. Mia, ever my defender, urged me to keep going. "They're scared," she said over late-night pizza. "Your play's holding a mirror up to this place, and they don't like what they see." She was right, but that didn't make it easier. The closer we got to the showcase, the more I felt like I was walking into a lion's den. My only ally, besides Mia, was Professor Langston, the one faculty member who'd always believed in me. A grizzled theater veteran, he'd seen my early scripts and encouraged me to take risks. When I showed him Curtain Call, he nodded slowly, his eyes sharp. "This is brave, Lucas," he said. "But bravery comes with a cost. Are you ready for it?" I wasn't sure, but I nodded anyway. I had to be. The night before the final dress rehearsal, Ethan cornered me in the green room. The rest of the cast was gone, and the silence was heavy. "I read the script again," he said, his voice low. "It's about us, isn't it?" I didn't deny it. "It's about a lot of things." He stepped closer, his expression raw. "I didn't mean to make you feel like nothing. I love you, Lucas. I always have." His words hit like a punch, stirring up feelings I tried to bury. I wanted to scream, to cry, to pull him close and push him away all at once. Instead, I said, "Then why did you kiss her?" He flinched, and for the first time, I saw real regret in his eyes. "Because I was scared," he admitted. "Scared of failing, of losing my place here. Sophia's safe. She's what they want. And I'm not." I asked, my voice trembling. "You're everything," he said, but the words felt hollow, overshadowed by the memory of that stage. He reached for me, but I stepped back, my heart a battlefield of love and betrayal. The dress rehearsal was a blur. The cast hit their marks. The lighting was perfect, but I felt like I was watching it all through a fog. Every line felt too real. Every glance between Ethan and Sophia too charged. I wondered if the audience would see it too, the truth beneath the fiction. I wondered if I was ready for them to. After rehearsal, I stayed late in the theater, tweaking the script. The stage was empty, the house lights dim, and for a moment, I felt at peace. This was my world. My story. No matter what happened at the showcase, I'd made something true. But as I left the theater, a note was taped to the door, scrawled in Sharpie, "Your play won't change anything. Give up." The words stung, but they also fueled me. I wasn't giving up. Not now. Not ever. The note haunted me, its words looping in my mind as the showcase loomed. I didn't know who'd written it, but it felt like Crestwood itself was pushing back, warning me to stay in my place. I tore it up and threw it in the trash. But the message lingered, "Your play won't change anything." The morning of the showcase. The campus was alive with anticipation. Students milled around the theater, their excitement a stark contrast to the knot in my stomach. I'd barely slept, my mind racing with what-ifs. What if the audience laughed again? What if Ethan and Sophia turned my play into another spectacle? What if I'd misjudged everything, and curtain call was just a cry into the void? Mia found me backstage, her arms crossed and her eyes fierce. "You're spiraling," she said, handing me a coffee. "Stop it. Your play is good. It's honest. That's more than most people here can say." I managed a weak smile. What if they hate it? Then they hate it, she said, shrugging. But they'll feel it first. And that's what matters. Her words steadied me, but only just. As the theater filled, I peeked through the curtain, scanning the crowd. Professors, students, even a few scouts from New York theaters were there, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Ethan was already in costume, his expression unreadable as he warmed up with Sophia. I wanted to talk to him, to bridge the gap between us. But there was no time. The house lights dimmed, and the show began. Curtain call opened with a monologue from Eli, my stand-in, pouring his heart out about the cost of loving someone who chases the spotlight. The actor playing Eli, a quiet sophomore named Jamie, delivered it with a rawness that made my throat tighten. The audience was silent, absorbed, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. But then Ethan and Sophia took the stage, and the air shifted. Their scenes were electric, their chemistry undeniable. I'd written their characters to expose the flaws in Crestwood's world ambition, betrayal, the pressure to conform, but watching them, I wondered if I'd given them too much power. Every glance, every touch, felt like a reminder of that night. The audience was captivated, but I couldn't tell if it was the story or their star quality pulling them in. The climax was the hardest to watch. Eli confronts Julian in front of a fictional audience, forcing him to choose between love and ambition. Ethan's performance was gut-wrenching, his voice breaking as he pleaded with Jamie's Eli. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said, the line so close to his real words to me that I had to grip the edge of my chair. Sophia, as the actress who tempts Julian, stood defiant, her character refusing to apologize for her choices. The audience was on edge, their silence heavy with anticipation. And then, the final moment, Eli walks away, choosing himself over a love that's broken him. The stage went dark, and for a heartbeat, there was nothing but silence. Then, applause slow at first, then thunderous. I couldn't tell if it was approval or mockery, but it shook me all the same. Backstage, the cast was buzzing, but I felt hollow. Ethan found me in the wings, his face flushed from the performance. "That was incredible, Lucas," he said, his voice earnest. "You did that. You made them feel something." I wanted to believe him, but the applause still echoed in my ears, too close to the laughter from before. "Did they get it?" I asked, more to myself than to him. "Or were they just clapping for you?" He didn't answer, and that was answer enough. Sophia joined us, her expression softer than I'd expected. "It's a good play, Lucas," she said. "It's honest." I nodded, unsure how to respond. The cast dispersed, and I stayed behind, cleaning up props and trying to make sense of the night. Professor Langston found me, his face unreadable. "You took a risk," he said. "Not everyone will like it, but they'll remember it. That's what art does." His words were a lifeline, but the doubt lingered. As I left the theater, I saw the crowd outside, their faces lit by phone screens as they discussed the play. Some looked moved, others dismissive. One student, a freshman I barely knew, approached me. "Your play?" she said, her voice shy. It made me feel seen. "Thank you." Her words hit harder than the applause. For the first time, I felt like I'd done something right. The days after the showcase were a strange mix of triumph and turmoil. Curtain Call was the talk of Crestwood, but not in the way I'd hoped. Some praised its raw emotion. Others called it a personal vendetta. The forum exploded with opinions. Some supportive, others vicious. "Harper's play is a middle finger to the Academy," one post read. Another, "He's just milking his breakup for drama." I tried to tune it out, but each comment was a pinprick to my already bruised heart. Ethan kept his distance, and I let him. Our last conversation had left me raw, unsure if I could trust Heimer myself anymore. I threw myself into classes, hoping the routine would ground me, but the whispers followed me everywhere. Even my professors seemed divided. Some, like Langston, offered quiet encouragement. Others gave me sidelong glances, as if I'd crossed an unspoken line. Sophia surprised me by seeking me out a week later. We met in the campus coffee shop, the air thick with the scent of espresso and tension. "I owe you an apology," she said, stirring her tea. "I didn't realize how much that kiss would hurt you. I got caught up in the moment, in what the audience wanted." I studied her, searching for sincerity. "Why didn't you stop it?" I asked. She sighed, her perfect composure cracking. "Because I'm scared too. Lucas. This placiate makes you feel like you're one mistake away from losing everything. I thought playing along would keep me safe." Her honesty disarmed me. For the first time, I saw her not as the untouchable star, but as someone navigating the same pressures I was. "It's not just about the kiss," I said. "It's about what it meant. To me, to Ethan, to everyone watching." She nodded, her eyes distant. "I know. And I'm sorry." We didn't become friends, but the conversation shifted something. I realized Crestwood's cruelty wasn't just about might was a machine that chewed up anyone who didn't fit its mold. Sophia, Ethan, even me, we were all playing roles, trying to survive. That realization fueled my next move. I started a writing group, a space for students to share work that didn't fit Crestwood's polished narrative. Mia was the first to join, followed by Jamie, the actor who'd played Eli, and a handful of others. We met in the library's basement, reading poems, stories, and scripts that were messy, honest, and real. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. But Ethan was still a ghost in my life. I saw him in classes, on stage, his presence a constant ache. I missed him the late-night talks, the way he'd laugh at my terrible puns, the warmth of his hand in mine. But I couldn't forget the kiss, the laughter, the way he'd chosen the stage over me. One night, he showed up at my dorm, his face pale in the hallway light. "Can we talk?" he asked, and this time, I let him in. We sat on my bed, the silence heavy. "I've been thinking about what you said," he started. "About choosing you. I didn't, and I hate myself for it." I wanted to lash out, to tell him it was too late, but his voice broke something in me. "Why now?" I asked. "Why say this after everything?" "Because I'm losing you," he said, his eyes wet. "And I don't know how to fix it." I didn't have an answer. Part of me wanted to pull him close, to pretend we could go back. But another part, the part that had written curtain call, that had stood up to Crestwood, knew I couldn't. Not yet. The writing group became my refuge, a place where I could be myself without fear. One night, Jamie shared a poem about his own coming out, his voice shaking as he read. The room was quiet, then erupted in support. I realized then that my play hadn't just been for mine, had opened a door for others to tell their truths. As winter settled over Crestwood, I felt a shift. The laughter that had once defined me was fading, replaced by something stronger. I was still hurting, still unsure about Ethan, but I was no longer the fool in the wings. I was Lucas Harper, and I was writing my own story. Winter at Crestwood was brutal, the snow piling high outside the theater. But inside, the air was charged with new possibilities. The writing group grew, drawing in students from across the academy, painters, musicians, actors, all hungry for a space to be real. I found myself leading, not just writing, and it gave me a purpose I hadn't known I needed. But Ethan's shadow lingered, a question I couldn't answer. He started showing up to the writing group, sitting quietly in the back, listening but never sharing. His presence was a distraction, a reminder of what we'd lost. I caught him watching me sometimes, his green eyes heavy with something unspoken. I wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but I didn't trust myself to stay strong. One night, after a particularly raw session where a freshman shared a story about her trans sibling, Ethan stayed behind. The others had left, and it was just us in the dim basement room. "You're doing something amazing here," he said, his voice soft. I didn't realize how much this place needed it. I shrugged, stacking chairs to avoid his gaze. "It's not about me. It's about them. It's about you too," he said, stepping closer. "You're braver than I ever was." His words hit hard, stirring up the love I'd tried to bury. But I couldn't let myself fall back into him. Not after everything. "Bravery doesn't fix what happened," I said. "You made a choice, Ethan, and I'm still living with it." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I know. I miss you." I wanted to say I missed him too, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I said, "I need time." He left without another word, and I sat alone, the weight of his absence heavy. But the writing group kept me grounded. We started planning a spring showcase, a platform for our work, free from Crestwood's usual gloss. I wrote a new piece, a short play about healing, about finding strength in broken places. It wasn't about Ethan, but it was shaped by him, by us. The campus was changing, slowly. My play had sparked conversations, forced people to confront the academy's underbelly. Some students reached out, sharing their own stories of feeling unseen. Even a few professors started attending our meetings, curious about the rebel artists in the basement. Professor Langston became a regular, offering feedback that was tough but fair. "You're building something," he told me one night. "Don't let it crumble." But not everyone was on board. The forum still buzzed with hate, and I found another note slipped under my dorm door. "Your little group won't last. Crestwood doesn't change." I showed it to Mia, who crumpled it with a scowl. "They're scared," she said. "Keep going." And I did. The spring showcase took shape, with pieces from every member of the group. Mine was the closer, a play called Shades of Us, about a community finding strength in their differences. It was hopeful, but not naive, grounded in the pain and resilience I'd lived through. Casting was a challenge. I didn't want Ethan or Sophia involved, but they both auditioned. I chose Jamie for the lead, his quiet strength perfect for the role, but I couldn't avoid Ethan entirely. He was cast as a supporting character, and every rehearsal was a test of my resolve. Working with him was torture and comfort all at once. He was professional, But there were moments, small glances. A brush of his hand that reminded me of what we'd been. I kept my distance. But the ache grew. Sophia, meanwhile, was absent, focusing on her senior thesis. I was grateful for the space, but it left Ethan and me in a strange limbo, neither together nor fully apart. As the showcase neared, I felt the weight of what we were doing. This wasn't just about art, it was about claiming a space where we could exist without fear. But the notes kept coming, each one sharper, and I started to wonder if Crestwood would ever let us win. The spring showcase was our chance to prove the writing group wasn't just a fleeting rebellion. We transformed the Black Box Theater into a raw, intimate space, with mismatched chairs and fairy lights strung across the ceiling. The energy was electric, a mix of nerves and defiance as we prepared to share our truths with Crestwood. My play, Shades of Us, was the final piece, and rehearsals were intense. Jamie brought a quiet fire to the lead, a character who learns to embrace their identity despite a world that rejects it. Ethan's role was smaller, but he poured himself into it, his performance layered with a regret I couldn't ignore. I directed with focus, but every note I gave him felt personal, a bridge between our past and the uncertain present. The night of the showcase, the theater was packed. Students, faculty, even some alumni filled the seats, their curiosity palpable. The first piece's poems, monologues, a short film were met with warm applause, but I could feel the tension building as my play approached. The notes had continued. The latest one, warning, your kind doesn't belong here. I'd kept it from the group, not wanting to dampen their spirit, but it weighed on me as I took my place in the director's chair. Shades of Us began with a single spotlight on Jamie, his voice steady as he spoke of growing up in a world that didn't see him. The story unfolded through vignettes, moments of joy, pain, and resilience woven together by a community of misfits. The audience was quiet, absorbed, and for the first time, I felt like they were with us, not against us. Ethan's scene was a turning point, a moment where his character confesses to hurting someone he loves. His eyes found mine in the darkness, and I knew he wasn't just acting. I didn't know how to be enough, he said, the line blurring the boundary between script and reality. My chest tightened, but I kept my focus on the stage, on the story we were telling. The play ended with a quiet moment of unity, the characters standing together under a single light. The audience erupted, not in mockery, but in genuine appreciation. I felt tears prick my eyes, not just for the applause, but for what it meant. We'd done it, had created something that mattered. Backstage, the group was euphoric, hugging and laughing through tears. Ethan approached me, his expression tentative. I'm proud of you, he said, his voice low. This was everything. I nodded, unable to find words. The gap between us was still there, but it felt smaller, softer. Mia pulled me into a hug, whispering, "You did it, Lucas. You changed the game." But the victory was bittersweet. After the show, I found another note taped to my script, "Enjoy your moment. It won't last." The words were a reminder that Crestwood's cruelty wasn't gone, just quiet for now. I showed it to Professor Langston, who frowned but didn't seem surprised. "Change is slow," he said, "but you've started something. Don't stop." That night, I walked across campus, the snow crunching under my boots. The stars were bright, and for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Ethan was still a question mark, but I was finding answers in myself. The writing group, the showcase, Shades of Us were proof that I could build something, even in a place that tried to tear me down. Spring brought a thaw, not just in the snow, but in the air at Crestwood. The writing group became a fixture, a safe haven for those who didn't fit the Academy's mold. We met weekly, our stories growing bolder, our voices louder. But the notes never stopped. each one a reminder that change was a fight, not a gift. Ethan and I were in a strange limbo. We talked more, shared coffee, even laughed like we used to. But the trust was fragile. A cracked vase holding water, but ready to break. He was trying showing up to the group, helping with tech for our next event, but I couldn't forget the stage. The kiss. The laughter. I wanted to forgive him, but I needed to forgive myself first, for letting Crestwood's cruelty make me doubt my worth. One afternoon, we sat on the quad, the grass still damp from melted snow. "I've been thinking," Ethan said, his voice hesitant. "About us. About what I did." I braced myself, expecting another apology. Instead, he said, "I'm leaving Crestwood after this semester. I got an offer from a theater in Chicago. It's small, but it's real." I stared at him, the news a shock and a relief. "Why?" I asked. "Because I need to find out who I am without this place," he said. "And because I want to be someone you can trust again. If you'll let me." His words were a lifeline, but I wasn't ready to grab it. "I don't know if I can," I admitted. "But I'm glad you're finding your way." He nodded, his eyes sad but understanding. "I'll wait, Lucas. As long as it takes." The writing group's next event was a festival, a celebration of stories from the margins. I wrote a new piece, a monologue called Unscripted, about a young man learning to love himself in a world that doesn't always love him back. Jamie performed it, his voice carrying the weight of my journey. The audience, bigger than ever, listened, clapped, cried. For the first time, I felt like Crestwood was listening too. The notes slowed, then stopped. I don't know if the writer gave up or if the campus was finally shifting, but it felt like a victory. Professor Langston pulled me aside after the festival, his eyes proud. "You're not just a director, Lucas," he said. "You're a leader. Don't forget that." Ethan left for Chicago in May, and I didn't go to his send-off. Instead, I sent him a text, "Good luck. Let me know when you're ready to talk." It wasn't closure, but it was a start. I stayed at Crestwood, leading the writing group, writing new plays, building a community that felt like home. The stage that had once broken me became my strength. I'd been mocked, betrayed, but I'd also found my voice. Crestwood hadn't changed completely, but I had. And in the end, that was the story that mattered, a story of love, loss, and the courage to write my own ending.